Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful blanket. I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful square. Now I've done my square in white, but in the video I'm going to use a variegated yarn so you can see what it looks like in different colours. I've offset the blanket. I'm going to show you how to crochet your squares together so that you have this beautiful square edging. I'll show you how to do a complete round around your blanket to set it off. Now I've done mine in this beautiful coral pink, but you can do this in white. You can, if you do your granny squares in white or blue or pink, you can use the same yarn to stitch them together. I've done it in a different colour just to show you how much it offsets the white with this beautiful square. Now some people call this granny square a Catherine wheel because it has this wheel in the middle. It starts off round and then you do it square. Now what I'm going to point out in the video, this is a different yarn. It's kind of a sort of thicker yarn. I used a smaller hook, but I done 3 rounds around my square. In the video I've only done 2. I've used a different yarn, so it only needed 2 rounds to get it to the same size. But this is so pretty. I'm going to show you how to do this. And if you use a thicker yarn and a smaller hook, then you may just have to do 1 extra round to get it to the size you want. You can make these squares as big as you like. You can do as many rounds. Once you've done the centre circle, you can do as many rounds around the square as you like. So I'm going to show you how to do this beautiful blanket and how to crochet it all together using a crochet stitch rather than a sewing needle. So the first part of the circle square, it starts with a circle and then we're going to turn it into a square. I'm going to do a magic loop and then we're going to put 16 UK treble crochets into the middle of the stitch. So I'm going to start with a magic loop. I've got the tail end of the yarn on my hand. I'm just going to wrap it around under that one and pull the working yarn through like that. It's a little bit like a big loose slip knot. Now you can chain 4 and slip stitch it into a ring and then work inside the loop that way. So we're going to chain 3 to start with. I'll come down a little bit. We're getting into the autumn and the winter is coming in quite quickly, so I've had to put my overhead light on. We've got a little bit of shadow here, but just don't worry, it won't detract from the video. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. That's your first UK treble crochet. So into this ring you're going to put another 15. So yarn over and through, put your yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over into the loop and pull your yarn through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. Now you'll do that until you've got 16 stitches inside this loop and count that chain as 1. That's 1, 2, 3. So I've got my 16 treble crochets in here. Now if you're in the USA, these are double crochets for you. I'm going to pull the tail tight, and that's why it's called a magic ring. It pulls it in really tight. Now into the 3rd stitch of that chain of 3, count 1, 2 and 3, into that stitch we're going to slip stitch. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now chain 1 more, that makes 4. That counts as 1 treble crochet and 1 chain. So into the next stitch you're going to put a treble crochet, chain 1, into the next stitch, put a treble crochet and chain 1. You're going to do that all the way around. Treble crochet into the next stitch, chain 1 and treble crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, all the way around, and you should have 16 of these little legs inside your circle. Chain. So I've done my last one and my chain 1. Now into the third stitch in that chain of 4, remember we did the chain of 3 and added an extra one for 4. So into the third stitch, 1, 2 and 3, you're going to slip stitch into that stitch. Now I've done a chain 1 here, and that closes off your centre. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to slip stitch, pull the stitch up just a little bit so it's not too tight. We're going to slip stitch into that space. You're going to chain 3, so that counts as 1, 2 and 3, no that's 2, 3. Into this space you're going to put another 2 treble crochets. We're going to put clusters of 3 treble crochets into each chain space. So that chain of 3 counts as 1 stitch. So that's just got a 3 in there. We're going to move to the next one and we're going to put 3 in there all the way around. 1, 2 and 3. Into the next space put your 3 treble crochets. 1, 2 and 3, and you're going to do that all the way around. Put 3 treble crochets into each chain space. If you're in the USA, these are double crochets. Put 3 into each chain space all the way around. So I'm at my last space and I'm going to put my 3 treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Now where the chain is, 1, 2, 3, count 3 stitches up and slip stitch in. And that's what we have. We have this. So what you're going to do now, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, and into that third space there you're going to do a double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You're going to skip 3 stitches or skip 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, and into the next space do a double crochet. If you're in the USA, that's a single crochet. You're going to do that all the way around. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 of the stitches, 1, 2, 3, and into the space do a double crochet all the way around. 1, 2, 3. Just pull it apart and skip 1, 2, 3 and double crochet into there. 1, 2, 3, skip 1, 2, 3, double crochet and double crochet. So you're skipping each of the little sets and going into the space in between in your clusters. 1, 2, 3. You'll skip those 3 stitches and do your double crochet. Now when you get back to the beginning, you're going to do your double crochet into the bottom of there, just into that space. Skip your 1, 2, 3 and do your double crochet in to there. And this is what you have. It looks like a little flower. I've got some pieces of yarn here. I've got 4 pieces of bright coloured yarn. So into here, this first space, I'm going to mark this as a corner. We're going to make this into a square now. So put a little marker in. That's your first corner space. Count 1, 2, 3 loops. Then into the 4th loop, put another little marker. Just use a little piece of yarn or a stitch marker. I'm using the yarn because it's quieter. When you use a stitch marker, it rattles on the workspace. So I've got a marker, 3 spaces, then a marker. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3 chains, and into that 4th chain we'll put another marker. This is marking out your corners. So you'll have 3 chains and then a marker into the 4th one. So here 1, 2, 3 chains, and into that 4th one we'll put our last marker. I'm going to take that first one out because it should be in a chain space. 1, 2, 3. That should be in that chain space there. So where your loop is, you'll put your first marker here, then you'll count 1, 2, 3, put a marker in the 4th one, 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th one put a marker, 1, 2, 3, and into this 4th one we'll put the last marker. We should have 4 markers with 3 chains in between. So you've got 1, 2, 3 chains in between each marker. Now these markers are going to be your corners. They're going to be your corners. So I'm going to put my hook back in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn just so I can slip stitch back in there. Pull my stitch up so it's not tight and slip stitch into that chain. Now turn your work back again. Just turn it back. It's just so that we're in the middle of this chain here. I'll leave that marker just now. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 3 treble crochets into here. We're going to move to this next chain space and put 3 in there. Move here, put 3 into this one, and move there and put 3 into there, and then I'll show you how to do a corner. So we're going to put half a corner into this first one. So what you're going to do now is we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4. That is a double treble. Into these corners we're going to put double trebles just at the beginning to make it square. So you've got a double treble here, that's 4 chains. And beside this chain you're going to put 2 treble crochets. 1 and 2. Now we've made half a corner. That's half a corner. Into this next chain space you're going to put 3 treble crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Into the next one do the same, put your cluster in, that's 3 treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Into the next one put a cluster, put 3 treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Now to make a corner you're going to put 2 treble crochets, UK treble crochets, and 1 double treble. So 2 treble crochets, that's 1 and 2. I'm going to take my marker out just now. Now we're going to wrap going to wrap twice around your hook, 1, 2, and go in to that same chain space and pull your yarn through. So it looks like you've got 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and through 2 loops, yarn over, come through 2 loops, and yarn over and come through 2 loops. So this is what's going to help turn this circle into a square. You're going to chain 2 and do another double treble. So twice around your hook and into the same space. Yarn over, come through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops, and then you're going to do 2 treble crochets. So that's 1 and 2. Now this is the only round we'll do that, because we're going to make this into a square. It helps it go into a square when we've got 2 larger stitches here in this part. If you don't, it kind of stays like a sort of circle square, if you know what I mean. So this helps it to go more squarish. So into the next chain, you'll do your 3 treble crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So into the next one, 3 treble crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 into the next chain. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're at the next corner chain, so I'm going to take my marker out. It's one of the perils of doing crochet when it's winter time. It starts to get dark faster. So into this one you're going to put 2 treble crochets, 1 and 2. You're going to wrap your yarn twice and do a double treble, a UK double treble. If you're in the USA, these are just trebles. It's the same stitch, just a different name. Yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops. Chain 2, 1 and 2. Remember, we're doing a corner, and do another double treble. We're going to put 2 treble crochets in here to complete this corner. 1 and 2. And there you go. Now I find that gives you a bit of a better kick off to make this square. Once we do the next round, it will straighten it right up. So you're going to put a cluster into this chain, a cluster into this chain, and a cluster into this chain. And your cluster is 3 UK treble crochets. 1, 2 and 3. Now if I'm going too fast for you and you're crocheting along, you can pause the video. There is a little icon down there where you can actually slow the video down as well, but I think it slows the speech as well, so it sounds strange. 1, 2 and 3. 3 into the next chain space. 1, 2 and 3. Then we'll do the next corner. Take my marker out. So into the next chain, I'm going to put 2 treble crochets, 1 and 2. 1 double treble, 1, 2 around your hook, and in, through 2 loops, yarn over, through 2 loops, yarn over and through 2 loops, and you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and build the other side of the corner. Start with a double treble, This is the only round that will do double trebles in. Then your 2 treble crochets, 1 and 2. This yellow is quite bright for my lights. A cluster into this chain, a cluster into this chain, and a cluster into this chain. Now remember, at this corner we've already done half of it. So do a cluster of 3 trebles into this chain space, a cluster into the next chain space, and a cluster into the next chain space. 1, 2 and 3. We'll take the marker out. You can put the markers back in if you're just a beginner and you need to know where it is. So into this space, remember we've done the chain of 4. The chain of 4 is your double treble. So into here we're going to put 2 treble crochets, 1 and 2. Now we're going to put 1 double treble in to finish this corner. Through 2 loops and through 2 loops. Chain 2, 1, 2. Now remember we've done the chain of 4 at the beginning. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to slip stitch into that 4th stitch in that chain, and that gives us our corner. Now don't worry if it's still looking a little bit on the round, it won't once we do this last round. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to pull my stitch up. I want to go back to that space. Pulling the stitch up lets you come around to the middle of a stitch and you're not crammed into the corner. I'm going to turn around just for a minute and I'm going to slip stitch, slip stitch through and just slip. Turn it back. Now that puts us right in the middle, and it saves us from having a big bulky joining stitch over here. So we're going to chain 3 this time. 1, 2, 3. We're not going to do any larger stitches. Now into here you're going to put 2 treble crochets. That's 1 and 2. Now these stitches are hiding that slip stitch for you. We'll finish this corner when we come back round. We're going to skip over to this space here between the clusters, and you're going to put 3 treble crochets. 1, 2 and 3. Now you can make this square as big as you want it to be. Now that's that side. We'll finish that corner when we come all the way around. Space, put your 3 treble crochets. 1, 2 and 3. 3 treble crochets into the next space in between your clusters. You're going in between into that space. Put your little granny stitch in. 1, 2 and 3. Now you'll notice that I don't do a chain in between my clusters. Once you've made this and you've washed it, once it's washed, if you put a chain, I found personally, if I put a chain in between these clusters, my squares go wavy. They go too big in between the gaps, and you end up with it going like this. It goes too wide, or it puckers in like that because there's too many stitches along there. It looks really neat to begin with, but once you've made a blanket with this, or if you're going around and around and you wash it a few times, you don't want it to stretch away out. if you put a stitch in there, that will stretch out really wide, and you'll find that the corners of your blanket goes really wide like that at the tops, at the sides. It's personal preference. So into the next space, put your 3 treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3. Now we're at the corner. You can see your corner here. So into here you're going to put 3 treble crochet, 2 chain and 3 treble crochets. So that's 1, 2 and 3, 2 chain, 1, 2, don't do the chains too tight, and 3 treble crochets. 1, get some more of my yarn, 2 and 3. Move to the next space in between your stitches, your clusters. You're going to put your little granny cluster in there, your 3 treble crochets. Work along this side with your clusters in between the clusters that are there already. So into this corner you're going to put your 3 treble crochets, 1, 2 and 3, chain 2, don't do them too tight, chain 2 and 3 treble crochets into that corner, 1, 2 and 3. So you're going to move along in between your clusters again and do your next cluster, 1, 2, pull my yarn out, and 3 and 3, and we're back to the next corner. 3 treble crochet, 2 chain and 3 treble crochet, 2 and 3, chain 2, don't make them too tight, and 3 treble crochet, 1, 2 and 3, and work along this last side, 3. Now we're at that corner. Now remember, we've already got half of it done, so we only need to put 3 treble crochets in, 1, 2 and 3, and do your chain of 2, 1, 2, don't do those too tight, and into the top of this chain 1, 2 and 3, into the 3rd stitch you're going to slip stitch, and that's you finished that square. Now if you want a big blanket, you can continue to do that. Go in between each of your clusters and then do your corner. So I'm going to show you how to join your granny squares together once you've made the amount that you want. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a confession here. I had some of these crocheted together into a blanket and I had to rip it all back out because I had one back to front. I had it back to front, so when I was joining them and I opened it up, I had one round the right way and the other one was back to front. So all the ones I had joined together, I had to take them all out. So anyway, I'm going to show you how to do these blanket, how to join them together. Now make sure you've got the reverse. If you've done the ones that I've done, make sure that you've got the reverse of your granny square here, and this is the reverse of this one, and make sure they're together like this. Make sure they're together and line them up corner to corner. Now remember, when I've made these ones I put an extra round on them because this was different yarn and my square was smaller to the other ones that I did. So these were the ones that I did in the video, and these were all the white ones that I had already made to do my full big blanket. So they've got a right side and a wrong side. That's the wrong side and that's the right side. You can see it's much prettier. So I'm going to show you how to join them all together. So what you have to do is you make sure you've got the wrong side and the wrong side together, two wrong sides facing each other, so that when you open up your blanket they're the right way round. You've got all your pretty pattern that's there. So I'm making this one in white. So what I'm going to do is I've got the two wrong sides together like this, and I'm going to put my hook through the corner stitches. I'm going to put my hook in there and the same in this one so that they're lined up. I'm going to join them with this pretty pink, sort of peachy pink yarn just to lift it. I'm using this, so I'm going to use this to stitch them all together or crochet them together. There's several different ways of joining blankets, but I wanted to do this one where it had the sections all running across the top like it showed you at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to do a chain, just do a stitch, one stitch. Now what you're going to do is you're going to turn your squares, so you're going to join stitch for stitch. So if you make sure that your corner sections are together in the right place where the chains are, and you're going to go down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go stitch for stitch. So I'm going to go through that stitch on this one and through the same stitch on the other one. You should have the same number of stitches on each square. I'm going to pull my yarn through and I'm going to do a double crochet. Just pull it through. I'm going to go through the next one, through that one and through that one, and pull through till I've got two loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull through those two. I'm going to work my way down this square, just joining them like this. Join them up stitch for stitch, and you should have the right amount of stitches because each square should have the same amount of stitches in it because they're all the same size. And pull through. Make sure on the front you've got the right side and on the back's the right side, and you've got them joined the wrong side in the middle in there, because when we open it like this, when we open it we want to have that coloured ridge. And like I said already, I had these joined and I had to rip it all back out because I had one or two of them back to front. But anyway, this is how you join them with your crochet. I do have another video where you can stitch it together. You can do the same thing and just stitch it with a darning needle. But this makes it nice and pretty. It really lifts it. So when you're getting near the end, make sure you're keeping your chain space together and your stitches. Through that one and through that one, and do your double crochet. If you're in the USA, this is a single crochet, and this makes that pretty ridge all the way on the top of the front of your blanket. Now remember that last stitch in there, get both your squares and then put one into the chain space, go right through the chain space. Now what you're going to do is you're going to keep your hook there. What I've done is I'm going to start my next two. So if I get my next two, make sure I've got the back end of my square and the back end, so it's the back and the back together like that. Now these are the ones that I had to rip out. So what I did was match up the corners again, just match up my corners So I've got my 2 chains, and then I'm going to push my hook through there. I've still got my stitch in there. You can see my stitch. I'm going to yarn over and just pull it through and tighten it up and do a double crochet, and I'm going to work my way along this one, and you're going to do that until you've got, I did 4 along, so when you open it, it's going to be doubled. You've got another 2 and another 2. I'll show you that in a minute. So you just work your way along. You did the same as with this one, stitch for stitch. Just work your way along until you get this. So you'll work it along. I've got 2 here and I've got 2 there. I've got 2 and I've got 2. You can join as many as you like. I've done 4. I've done 4 along. And then what I did, I'm going to show you how to join your next row. I'll pull that out. This is as much as I got done and I had to take it back out. So I'll show you, once you've got your 2 done, once you've done 2 together, you'll get it like this. Now I'm going to show you how to add on your next ones. So your first one will be sets of 2. You'll do your first one, and then you'll open it up and you'll start adding your next squares in, just like this. So I've got my front of my square, and I'm going to match that up to that one, so it's the proper end. Make sure that you do it so that when you open it, that you've got your pattern on the front like these ones. And you're just going to repeat what we did already. Now these are the ones I had to rip out because I had them back to front. So please make sure that when you open it up, you've got your proper side here. So I'm going to find my yarn. I'm going to pull it through those 2. So you'll start with 2 and then you'll start adding your other ones along. So I'll do a stitch. We'll stitch these ends in. So now you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to work along, stitch for stitch. Just find your first stitch there and your first stitch there. Pull through and do your double crochet. We'll fix all the edges once we've got all these done. Just stitch for stitch through, pull your yarn through, just match up your corners and work your way along. Last stitch there, and then into the chain space and into the chain space on the corner. So what you'll do now is, I'll get some more yarn out. So this is what we have. So now we're going to add the next one. And again, make sure you've got the right side and you've got the wrong side. So put your right side and your right side here. The wrong sides are in there. That's the wrong side and the wrong side. And then we're going to match the corners up again, and we're just going to keep adding them on like that. So your first 2 is just 2, and then you'll add 1 and then add 1 here, add 1 further along. But what you'll keep doing is just keep your stitch in, keep your stitch in, get my yarn to that side. I'm going through that chain space and pull. Now what you can do is you can just join 2 together and cut your yarn and then join them in long strips, but I found doing it this way gives it a nicer box effect. put my yarn over and pull that together. When we come down the middle to join these ones, it will join all the corners nice and neat as well. Then go stitch for stitch again. And I'm saying stitch for stitch because there's a stitch here and the same stitch on that other one. We're picking them up like this and pull through and do your double crochet. If you're in the USA, these are single crochets. We're going to work them together. And I'm done here. But you'll start off with 2, like I showed you. You'll start with 2, then add your next one on that side and work along each section. Or you can just do them in strips and then rejoin them. It looks pretty this way though, doesn't it? So I'll finish off adding these squares. So when you get to the end of your line, you're just going to cut your yarn. I never went right through there with that. Cut your yarn and just pull it through. Pull it through like that. We'll stitch the ends in later. So now what you're going to do is, I've got 16 squares. You can do as many as you want on yours. I'll lift that up a little bit so you can see. So I've got 16 on here. So I've got 16 squares on mine, and look what we have. What you're going to do now is you're going to turn your blanket sideways like this. And now we're going to join them along this way. So all you have to do is just flip it like this, and we're going to do that same stitch all the way down. And what it's going to do is it's going to make this nice little box around each of your squares and really lift it. You can either do it in white and keep it all the same, or you can do it in any colour that you like. I'm doing it this colour too so you can actually see it. It stands out more. So I'll get the end of my yarn again and we'll start here in this corner. We're just going to do the same thing. So I'm going in between the little clusters in my corner and I'll put my hook through. Just pull my yarn through. Make sure you give yourself enough tail to sew in so that you've got enough to stitch the end in. And we will put a border all the way around this. So again, we're just going to do the same thing as before. You're just going to pick up the stitch on this one and on that square and do your double crochet. And if you're in the USA, these are single crochets. And we're going to work all the way along, and it should match up stitch for stitch. It should match each of your stitches. Same when you get to the end. Now go through the corners. That's where your corner joint is. Go through there. Then skip over to the other corners on this one. Skip over there and then go through stitch for stitch again and sew them together. I'll go right down this one and it should match. Corner here where your stitches are, go through both that corner space, then skip over to the other one. You might just have to push that stitch out of the way and find that corner, and that's going to secure these squares together at the corners, and work your way down to the edge. Try not to catch any of my little square in there. I'll show you what it looks like And this is what it looks like when you've got them all joined together. You'll have this nice block around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join all my sides, all these sections. I'm going to go right across to there. I'll cut my yarn. I'm going to stitch all my little loose ends in. I'll move to the next section. It's getting dark outside. I'll move to the next section and I'll do the same. I'll go along the edge and move to my last section. You can make these blankets as big as you like. You can make them any colour that you want. This is going to be really pretty with that colour on it. And we'll work around the blanket. So this is my little blanket that I've done. This is a little car seat size. I've done 16 squares. Now I've got a light up behind me and that's why you're seeing this shadow. It's dark outside. It's only 4:30 in the afternoon and it's dark. These are amazing granny squares, these, and you can do them in any colour. Now I've put my peach. I've sewed in all my ends, and remember I sewed them together like this along here, and then I kept adding them in and sewing along. Then I turned it sideways and we sewed all this in. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pick a corner. So I'm going to go into the corner. So I'm going to get my yarn. So to finish this blanket off, I was going to do a row of double crochets all the way around, but I'm going to put a round of clusters in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull my yarn through. I'll leave enough to sew the end in. Leave a big enough tail. And I'm going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now that's going to be a treble crochet and 2 chain. I'll finish my round when I get around to here, and that will finish off my round. So into here I'm going to put 3 treble crochets, and that's my cluster. That's got a little hang up there. It's 1, 2 and 3. I'm going to move over to the next space between the clusters, and I'm going to put my granny cluster in there. 1, 2 and 3. I'm going to work my way down the side of my blanket. I'm not putting any chains in. I don't put chains in between here because when you give it a wash, sometimes when you've got a chain 1, it makes it wide and your square goes sort of, it sort of skews away out. So I'll work my way down here, 2 and 3, putting my granny clusters in between each cluster. So I'm going to put a granny cluster in this side and a granny cluster in this corner here. I'm not doing it as a corner, I'm just using that space to put a cluster in. 1, 2 and 3. I'm going over to this side. 1, 2 and 3. So I'll move in between the next ones. I'm going to do that all the way down. So I'm going to put a cluster in between each of these clusters. 1 cluster into the space. I'll put 1 in this little corner space here and 1 in this one, and then move along, and I'll go all the way down. When I get to the corner, I'll put 1 cluster, 2 chain and 1 cluster in, and then I'll work my way along this way, and I'll do that all the way around the blanket. So I'll work my way down to the corner, and then I'll show you 1 corner, and then I'll just work my way around the blanket. So I'm at the corner, and what I'm going to do into the corner, I'm going to put one cluster, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2. Don't do your chains too tight, and I'm going to put another cluster into that same corner space, 2 and 3. Then I'll work my way along this edge, and this is how it looks. This is how it looks. It's really pretty. You can put as many rounds around your blanket as you want. Now I've chosen to do it this peach colour so that it stands out and you can see how it joins. You can still do this the same colour as your granny squares. You can make it the same colour, and look at that, it's really pretty. And it's all quite nice and square as well. So I've got this all finished, and I've done my one round of granny squares all the way around, just like I showed you. So all I need to do with this, so I'm going to zoom down. So remember we started with this chain, and what I'm going to do is into this corner I'm going to put 2 UK treble crochets. That's 1 and 2, and that's going to finish that one that we started with here. Now remember we started with the chain of 5. I'm going to count 3 stitches, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to slip stitch to close this round here. Now that is my little tail end from my blanket there. I'm going to pull that through. So that's through on the right side. Now all you'll do now is just pull your stitch up, cut your yarn and pull it through. If you want to do more than one round, you'll just slip stitch into here, chain 5 and start another round, and you'll go into these spaces. You can put as many rounds on your blanket as you want. I'm going to cut my yarn, make sure I leave enough to stitch in, and I've still got all of that left on that ball. I'll just pull that through to finish it off, and I'll sew in my ends, and that is it. Look at this, this is so pretty. It just needs a little bit stretching out, and that is it all finished, and it gives it this beautiful little block shape, even though I done it in this colour to make it stand out so you can see it. But it shows you that even if you do all your squares in one colour, you can use a different colour to offset it. It is so pretty, and look at this, it is so pretty. So thank you very much for watching, and that's how you do this beautiful blanket and how you crochet them together. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you click on the bell icon, YouTube will tell you when I put up another tutorial. So until the next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.